Hey everyone, Hans here, hope everyone's doing well. I hope you can hear me alright because it's a bit windy today here. It's a beautiful weather and I found a little bounty from the forest. I'm going to start with a little act. It's called just trusting on what you find in the woods, and it's delicious. No poison whatsoever. Brilliant. So, what are we going to talk about today? What am I going to talk about? I figured an ode to a people that is actually quite resilient, despite of what it sometimes may think of itself. And where to begin? I think we all understand that the Hyperboreans, the white race, the European race, is a people that belongs to the forest, especially when it's windy. And it is a place that most of us do not live at anymore, even though it's what we do as a vacation. What should be our lifestyle is a vacation these days. But that is the theft of our natural habitats is maybe for another day. I wanted to talk a bit more into detail. I wanted to talk a little bit more, I suppose, about the good that is still within us today. The resilience that we naturally have in the wake of all that has been done unto us in the last, I would even argue, more than 2000 years ago. We are most aware of the atrocities of the past, war crimes against our people, organized rape gangs, organized theft, kidnappings, the control freaks of the world that want to bind us to their whims, their will. The poisoning that we are subject to through our food, through also the spiritual poisoning of being robbed from our own deities, the fabrics that we wear, which may look pretty, but at the end of the day most of them aren't really that healthy for us. The poisoning of the mind through schooling, modern day schooling, modernist schooling, let's put it like that. The constant guilting that we are shoved, that gets shoved in our throats, that we must, for some reason, well, basically because of the anti-white being envious and jealous, it's just not enough for them to physically hurt us. No, they must in the mind break us too and make us feel guilty, prey on our natural empathy, which comes from, guess what, not us being bad people, but actually having good hearts instead. And as I mentioned already, the physical resilience against all these poisons pushed on us, the physical poisons, the filth that they spray our food with, the chemical substances that are hidden in soaps, the very building materials sometimes that our dwellings are made out of these days. It's we've been through a lot. Not even talking about all of the wars, the massacres, the persecutions of white people. And one may argue that we have been so sickened that we prey on our own as a consequence, and we have for many centuries. One of the worst illnesses that have been put in our minds is that the pursuit of money, of shiny things, exceeds doing right by our own. And that we are raised with the belief that we must climb on the heads of everyone around us through wealth, so that we then in turn can be living in this artificial power which comes from, well, nothing more than wealth. And that is the only thing worth pursuing, to be left alone in this world. All the degeneracy that is suggested, if you will, supposedly suggested, and now also actually forced onto the young. It hasn't gotten better since you went out of school, if you are right now. Quite the opposite. The poisons that are offered, the addiction, the addictive substances, the addictive pleasures, I suppose, hedonisms, whatever you want to call it. But at the end of the day, even if we aren't as tough, even if we weren't as big or as intelligent as we used to be, that potential still lives in us. And we can, even if for ourselves, we may have lost it for ourselves, it can be reignited in our children and our grandchildren. That is a total possibility. I guess I just wanted to remind people a little bit that we have been through a lot and we're still here. We're tougher than we think. We're stronger than we think. And if you want to know if I'm full of it or if I mean it, I invite you to look at the anti-whites, their endless torrents of these poisons that they keep throwing at us. Some forced, others we can say no, luckily, and we should. Their endless attempts to ruin who we are, maybe even end our existence, well, definitely many among them seek the end of our existence as a people in total. All of that shows to you, shows to me, that we are still what you might call someone to be reckoned with. The choice is ours. The choice is yours, white person. Be you French, Danish, be you a Slav, be you Mediterranean, be you Germanic, Baltic, be you Celt. There is still a lot of good in us. And we can have fun, you know. We can have fun doing the right thing. It needn't be this endless, horrifying struggle. We can laugh. I think that is a good message to bear in mind. Something important to remember whenever you are faced with, again, who knows, propaganda of some kind. Let me tell you a little story. A short one. A young boy once told me how sad he was, how much in despair he was, because in his home city called Paris, you might have heard of it, there was a poster, or I should say an entire string of posters on the streets. And in that poster there was a white girl, physically very attractive, who was doing things with a non-white that was considered painful to the boy. Things that that white girl perhaps shouldn't be doing and probably wouldn't be doing because she was being paid for it. Hence, that doesn't really hint at a lot of enthusiasm and voluntarism. Well, maybe a little. But I had to tell him, it's like, why do you choose to be sad about this? Why do you choose to be in despair? And that made him think. Choose? No, I just see that and I just feel this deep sadness in me. He didn't exactly word it like that, but that is what he meant. And I told him, but you can choose not to. Can you explain, Hans? And I explain it as I see it. You can choose to see that as an attempt to demoralize you, which it definitely is. No mistake about it. This isn't about the love between two people of different races who are now, no, that it was because these people were paid to stand in those poses and what have you, right? It was artificial. It was intentionally meant to break that boy's spirit. But I told him, look at that picture again if it's still up. No, it had been a week or so since he last saw it, so chances are it would have still been up there at the time. Go back to that picture and look at that. And decide for yourself to get angry instead. And I'm not talking about the tantrum here. I'm not talking about stamping your feet and crying and shouting. No, I talk about true anger. The anger of looking at that and realizing is that whoever made this picture was doing his very best to make me feel bad and is encouraging the girls of my people to sell themselves and stand in a ridiculous pose like that, to then in turn maybe brainwash a few foolish other girls of my people to do the same thing, but for real. Not because of love, but because they feel socially pressured to do so. Because they're afraid to not do so. And you think about all of the pain that these people behind that poster are trying to create. And within yourself, you bump your heart if you have to. You say to yourself, this is going to end. This filth is unacceptable. And the people behind that are going to get their due one day. I will right their wrongs. And there are many ways to do that. I told them, do it with the skill set that you have. A young boy happened to be very good at, what was it again? I believe he was, I've talked with many, I believe that fella in specifically was, I think he wanted to become a doctor of some kind. Not a doctor, but something specialized. And I told him, do what your skill sets that you've inherited or what you really want to pursue, go for it. And be as good as you can at it. And once you are, once you have earned yourself a good place, or you do well by yourself, and maybe you have at that time a family already, you'll think back at that poster one day and you'll remember the anger you felt that day. And perhaps, maybe, just maybe, you will have made friends, you will have accumulated wealth, you may have even have the time to then act, counteract, or act onto your own in whichever way you see fit, with the skill set that you have, the resources that you have, the energy that you have. Young boy didn't quite understand it, I think. But I was still happy to have been able to talk to him, and he felt better. He wasn't despairing so much anymore. All the pain that he himself had to go through for who knows how many years of his life. It wasn't just the one picture, right? The one poster, he could have probably walked by it if that had been the only thing in his life. Not even given it a second thought. But I think he also understood that there was someone else that cares. And I think he also understood is that you don't need to give in. There is a strength within you. Doesn't matter what you've been through. You can still choose to be a good man or a good woman. So, choose to be that. Analyze what is being done to our people if you must. But remember, you need to do stuff too. You need to act rightly, justly, be a good man, become one, become a good woman. And I think that's all I have to say for now. You all have a good one, and I'm gonna enjoy the wonderful weather, and maybe I can find another berry or two. Bye bye.